Hey guys, welcome to the Learn with Sandra show channel. I'm Alexandra and I run one of the leading platforms helping students excel in English exams and master everyday communication. So what are we looking at today? Today we are going to be solving likely post-UTME English questions for the University of Ibadan. Okay, so these are questions gathered from available sources online, from educational forums, right, online, and these are forums where students have shared past post-UTME experiences. So I cannot guarantee that they are official or the exact question from the university, but these are questions with common, question styles that are tested at that level. Okay. So let's get right into it. Question 1 to 6 are questions on the synonyms. So let's start. So question 1. Hamad is Labake's protege. Now the word protege has its origin in French and it means a person who is helped in their career or personal development by someone who is more experienced. Okay, so we'll regard a person who is helped as a trainee or a student, and he or she is helped by someone who is more experienced, and will regard that person as a mentor, right, or a teacher. So the answer to this question is definitely option C, students. Question 2. Tolulope is extravagant but generous. Now, generous means giving or willing to give freely. So option A, we have wasteful. So when we think of wasteful, we think of someone who wastes time and resources. We think of someone that is not economical, right? Careless, one who cares less, without care or consideration. So option C, buoyant. Buoyant is used most times in the context of financial activity, right? Tending to have a higher level, showing financial success, right? When we say magnanimous, magnanimous means kind, generous, forgiving, especially towards someone you consider to be an enemy or rival, right? So the best answer to this question is definitely option B, magnanimous. 3. The lecturer is very prolific. Now, prolific means producing many works, right? So we can say prolific writer, prolific artist. It means producing many work, right? Knowledgeable is someone that has knowledge with knowledge, right? Productive is creating or producing, right? When we think of Ash, we think of one who is strict, right? Popular means well known, right? So the best answer to this question is definitely option B, productive. Question 4. Language of one's mother tongue is an innate affair. So when we say innate, innate is something you're born with, right? So the answer to this question is no doubt option C, natural, because when we think of natural, natural is something that exists, that is not made by humans, okay? So it just exists. So the best answer to this question is definitely option C, natural. Question 5. The cupboard is capacious. Capacious means having a lot of space. Okay, we think of spacious, we think of roomy. So the best answer to this question is definitely option C, roomy. Question 6. Okay, the frown on his face portrayed is bitterness. Okay, portrayed is the focus word and it means to depict, to show, to describe something in a particular way. Okay, right. So the best answer to this question is option B, showed. And why is it showed, not shown? Right, we can see the sentence provided. There's a reason why you need to stick with context when solving questions like this. A sentence has been provided, so you need to refer to it. Okay, shown is the past participle, showed is past tense, the sentence or the context is in its past tense, so we have to stick with option B, showed, as the best answer to this question. So question 7 to 13 are questions under antonyms. Okay, so question 7, I hope he is not oblivious of the rampant cases of robbery in the town. So the word is oblivious, and oblivious means not aware. Okay, so option A, we have mindful. Option B, we have careless. Option C, we have unworried. Option D, we have carefree. Now the answer to this question is mindful, because when you are mindful, you're considering it, you're conscious of it, you remember someone or something. So that's the best answer to this question, because it is opposite in meaning to the word oblivious. Oblivious means not aware. So the best answer to this question is definitely option A, mindful. Question 8. So the focus word here is optimistic. Optimistic is expecting good things to happen. Okay. So the answer to this question is definitely option B, because pessimistic is expecting bad things to happen. Okay. So option B is the final answer to this question. Question 9. The fruits the woman gave me are eatable. So eatable is something suitable to be eaten, right? And option B is synonymous. When we think of edible, it's something that can be eaten, right? Inedible is not suitable to be eaten, right? When we say rotten, rotten is used in the context of decay. So the food has decayed and cannot be eaten, right? So the best answer to this question is option A, inedible, okay? Because it is not suitable to be eaten. Now, when we think of rotten, rotten is used in the context of decay, like I mentioned, for food and wood, right? So the best answer would be option A, inedible. Question 10. The prospect of gaining admission seems gloomy sometimes. Now, when we say gloomy, what does this mean? It means dark in a way that makes you feel sad or depressed. Now, the answer to this question is bright, right? Bright can be used to mean success. Okay, when they say you have a bright future, what does it mean? A potential success, right? So the best answer to this question is definitely option B, bright. Question 11. So this question looks easy, right? The woman detests lanky men. So lanky is used to describe someone with long, thin arms and legs. Okay, so the answer to this question will be option D, fat, because fat is opposite in meaning. It means having too much flesh, right? So option D is the final answer to this question. Question 12. The payment of school fees is mandatory while the payment for excursion is dash. The word is mandatory and it means something required. Okay, so when you take a look at option A, obligatory is something that is required, needed. Necessary is also something required or needed, right? Compulsory is something that you have to do, it is required. But voluntary is something done by choice, okay? So it's open to your choice, you making the decision to do it or not, okay? So option A, B, and D implies that something is required, except for option C. And do not forget, we are looking at antonyms, the opposite in meaning. So option C is the final answer to this question. Question 13. The politician was direct when answering the press. The word is direct and it means straightforward. In this context, we're looking at someone who says it the way it is, right? When we say sure, sure means you're positive about something, you are certain, you are convinced, it is clear to you. When we say guessing, when you guess, you're not convinced about it, okay? Realistic is real. We think of real when we think of realistic. Evasive is avoidance. You avoid telling the truth, okay? So the best answer to this question is evasive, right? Because when you're direct, you're straightforward. When you're evasive, you avoid telling the truth. Okay, so the best answer is definitely option D. So guys, question 14 to 24 are questions under, grammatical class, identifying phrases and clauses, types, and the function it performs and all of that. So this is where the real work is, guys. So I want you to pay attention because I know that a lot of students find this aspect of English grammar difficult. Okay, so let's continue with question 14. Question 14, okay. Kalakpo and Tade hate one another. Okay, so you can see the general instruction, guys. Choose the correct options for the capitalized words. Okay, so the focus here is one another. Okay, so we have two reciprocal pronouns, one another and each other. So these are the two reciprocal pronouns that we have in English grammar. Okay, and they are used when two people do the same thing. Kolapo and Tade hate one another. Kolapo hates Tade, Tade hates Kolapo. Kolapo and Tade like each other. Two people doing the same thing. Okay, so the answer to this question is reciprocal pronoun. Okay, so if we had Kolapo and Tade underlined, then we have a noun phrase. If we have Kolapo or Tade underlined, then we have a noun. We don't even have a demonstrative pronoun in this sentence to start with. But what are demonstrative pronouns? These are pronouns that point to something or someone. For example, this, these, that, those. Okay, so the best answer to this question is option B. Question 15. Chief Barnabas, the landlord, is a wicked man. This is a dash. Now the focus is the landlord, right? So let's start with a phrase and a clause. A phrase is a group of words without a verb. There is more to it, but in simple terms, this is what a phrase is. What is a clause? A clause is a group of words with a verb. So we can easily strike out option C, relative clause, because the landlord does not have a verb. The is an article, landlord is a noun. So what type of phrase is this? The answer to this question is appositive phrase. What is an appositive phrase? An appositive phrase is a phrase that gives us more information about someone or something. So in this case, the landlord is more information about the Chief Barnabas. Now, there are two types of appositive phrases. We have restrictive and non-restrictive. Okay, and how do we differentiate between restrictive and non-restrictive? The use of commas. Now, can we see commas in the sentence? Yes. Commas is separating the phrase, the landlord, from the noun, and its complement is a wicked man. So what does this mean? Restrictive means the phrase is important. Non-restrictive means the phrase is not important. That's what it means. And it is distinguished by the use of commas. So this is an appositive phrase. What type? A non-restrictive appositive phrase. What does it mean? It is not essential. The phrase is not essential. That's what it means. Okay. So why am I giving you these details? I'm giving these details because if they can ask you about appositive phrases, they can also ask you about, the type. So you need to be equipped with all the information you need. Okay. So let's look at option B, adjectival phrase. Now, if we had Chief Barnabas with the red hat or with a red SUV, with the red SUV would serve as an adjectival phrase. So that's an example. Okay. Let me say relative clause. Relative clause is also called adjectival clause, and it is usually introduced by, relative pronouns such as who, which, that, whom, right, whose, right? So, for example, if you had Chief Barnabas, who was my landlord? Who was my landlord would serve as a relative clause or an adjectival clause. We have was, which justifies it as a clause, and then who, which is a relative pronoun, introducing the clause. Okay. Subject complement. We have a subject complement in this sentence, a wicked man. Okay, it is complementing the subject Chief Barnabas. Now, this is a bonus. Whenever you have a linking verb such as is, was, where, are, and you have a qualifier after that, it is a subject complement. So, a wicked man is a subject complement. Another example is Chief Barnabas is my friend. Okay, so we have the linking verb is my friend, subject complement, complementing Chief Barnabas. Okay, so the answer to this question is definitely option A, appositive phrase. What function does it perform? It is in apposition to the noun phrase Chief Barnabas, or it functions as an opposition to the noun phrase Chief Barnabas. Question 16. The woman that we met on Friday is here. This is a dash. Now the focus is that we met on Friday. The first thing you want to do is ask yourself, is it a phrase or a clause? So we look at it and check for a verb. We have a verb, right? Met. Met is the past tense of meet, so it's a clause. Then we can easily strike out option D. Now the next step you want to take is ask yourself, what is this clause doing in this sentence? What function is it performing? That is the next step, guys. Okay. Now take a look at the sentence, the woman that we met on Friday. That means it is qualifying the woman. It is telling us more about the woman. The woman that we met on Friday, not the woman that we met on Thursday or Wednesday. The woman we met on Friday. Okay, that is an adjective. Okay, now the next thing that we're going to look out for is what introduces the clause. What is starting the clause? That is a relative pronoun, and that makes option A the best answer to this question, because relative clauses are usually introduced by or added by. When I say introduce, that means it is starting the clause. That, who, which, whom, whose. Okay, so guys, always follow that order. Is it a phrase or a clause? What function is it performing? Then look for what it is introduced by, the starting word. Okay, so option B, adverbial clause. Now adverbial clause are usually introduced or headed by, where, when, how, why. Okay, so option C, noun clause. Noun clause is usually introduced by whatever, what. Okay, for example, you can do whatever you like. Whatever you like is a noun clause. Okay, so option D, participle phrase. Now let's talk about participle phrase. Okay, so I give a definition of a phrase, and I said It is a phrase without a verb. That's a simple definition of a phrase. And I told you there's more to it. Now, the standard definition of a phrase is it's a group of words without a finite verb. So that means that phrases can have non-finite verb. Now, what are non-finite verbs? These are verbs that don't have tense. Now, what does this mean? Tense indicates time, present, past, future. But these are verbs that don't indicate time. Now, let me give an example. There are two types of phrases that have non-finite verb, right? We have participle phrase, just as we have in option D, and gerund phrase. Now, for example, with participle phrase, arrested for the first time, he was devastated. Arrested for the first time is a participle phrase, and it is introduced by something that looks like a verb, arrested, but it is not a verb. It is not performing the function of a verb. It is performing the function of an adjective. Arrested for the first time is telling us more about he. This qualifying he. The main verb is was devastated. Was tells us that it is past tense, not arrested. Okay? So, that is a non-finite verb. Arrested is a non-finite verb because it is not acting as a verb. It does not show tense. It does not tell us anything about tense. Okay? Another example I'll give is with gerund phrase. For example, teaching is fun. Teaching is fun. Or teaching English and literature is fun. Teaching English and literature is gerund phrase. And it is headed or introduced by what looks like a verb in continuous form, teaching, right? But it is not what? A verb. It is acting as a noun. Teaching is fun. The main verb is is. Okay, and tells us that it is present. I can say teaching was fun. So the non-finite verb teaching does not change in terms of tense. It does not have a tense. We can't say that teaching is present, past, future. It is or was that would determine the time. Okay? So the answer to this question is relative clause. Okay, do not forget, always follow this step. Okay, the first thing determines if it's a phrase or clause. Second thing, ask yourself what it is doing. And then the last, you can start to think about what introduces the phrase or clause. Okay, so relative clause, what function does it perform? It qualifies the noun phrase, the woman. Question 17. He is sitting on the fence. The focus here is on the fence, right? And the first question we're asking ourselves is this a phrase or a clause? So obviously this is a phrase because there is no verb. On the fence does not contain a verb, right? So the next question is, what function is it performing? What is it doing in this sentence? It is modifying the verb sitting. It is telling us where he is sitting. And that sounds like an adverb, right? I'm going somewhere, okay? So the last question that will finalize everything is what introduces the phrase, and that is on a preposition. So that makes it a prepositional phrase. Now, prepositional phrases and adverbial phrases are similar. In fact, I would not be expecting them to include adverbial phrase in this option because it will make it really, really confusing, right? But still, what finalized it for us is the preposition, the word that introduced the phrase. Option A, we have noun phrase. Okay, so if we add the fence capitalized alone, that would be a noun phrase. Okay, gerundy phrase is also called gerund phrase, right? We don't have that here. For example, if we add sitting on the fence, is not ideal. Sitting on the fence will serve as a gerund phrase or gerundy phrase. Okay, participle phrase, we don't have that here. So the best answer is definitely option D, prepositional phrase. What function does it perform? It functions as an adverb, modifying the verb sitting. Question 18. I prefer swimming to dancing. Okay, the focus here is swimming. Okay, so you can interpret it like this: I prefer one thing to another thing. This one thing is a noun. Okay, it has a name and it is called swimming. So it looks like a verb, but it acts as a noun in the sentence. And that is gerund. Gerunds are words that look like a verb, but act as a noun. Okay? I is the subject, which is a pronoun. Prefer is the verb. Swimming is a noun. Okay. So the best answer to this question is option D, gerund. Question 19. If you come early, you will follow us. The underlying expression is a dash. Now, if you come early is a conditional clause. A conditional clause is a clause that expresses condition, a condition under which something happens. Okay. And it is always introduced by if, as long as, provided that, unless. Okay. So when we say nominal clause, it is also called noun clause, okay? And it is introduced by that, whatever, what, that you are intelligent makes you more beautiful. That you are intelligent is the noun clause. Now when we say verbal clause is built around a clause. So a verb is the core in the clause, okay? So when we say adjectival clause, it is also called relative clause, and it is introduced by, which, who, whose, whom, right? So the best answer to this question is definitely option C, conditional clause. Question 20. Franklin gave Mary an orange. An orange in the sentence functions as dash. Now let's analyze the sentence. Franklin is the subject, gave is the verb, Mary is an object, and orange is another object. So we have two objects in the sentence, right? Now, how do we differentiate between the two? Because we can have a direct and an indirect object. Okay, so all you need to do is answer two simple questions. Number one, what did I give? Now, this answers a direct object. The second question is, to whom did I give it? This answers an indirect object. Now, let's go back to the question. What did Franklin give? He gave an orange. This is a direct object. To whom did he give it? To Mary. This answers an indirect object. So the answer to this question is option D. Okay, direct object of the verb. Now, even if you decide to reorder the object and you say Franklin gave an orange to Mary, it's still the same thing. Only that to Mary expresses a prepositional phrase because it is introduced by to, but it is still the same thing. So just answer the simple question and it will save you a lot of stress. Okay, what did Franklin give? Whether or not it is a human being or a thing, what did I give? What did Franklin give? Okay, so option A, we have subject of the verb. Subject of the verb is Franklin, okay, but that's not the focus. Option B, we have subject complement. We don't have that in this sentence. If we had a sentence like Franklin is a generous man will serve as the subject complement, but that's not the case here. So option C, we have indirect object of the verb, and that is Mary. Okay, so the best answer to this question is option D, direct object of the verb. An example of gradable adjective is dash. So an adjective is a word that qualifies a noun or a pronoun. Okay, and there are different types of adjective. We have descriptive, tall, beautiful. We have proper adjective, Nigerian, Italian. We have gradable, we have non-gradable. Now gradable adjectives are adjectives that show degree. So you can use modifiers such as very, extremely, okay, together with these adjectives. And the answer to this question is definitely option D, ugly. Okay, we can say very ugly, we can say extremely ugly, okay, we can say uglier, ugliest. So it conforms to the superlative and the comparative form, right? Alive is an example of non-gradable. We can't grade it. We can't say very alive, although some people say very alive, but it's not the standard expression. Okay, we can't grade it, so it's not option C. Content is technically gradable. Okay, content as an adjective or a verb means satisfaction, satisfied. When we compare content with ugly, ugly is much more gradable. Okay, it's just the best answer to this question. It is not common for us to use strong modifiers with content. Okay, so it's not the answer to the question. Dead is an example of a non-gradable adjective. Okay, we can't say extremely dead. Okay, so the best answer to this question is definitely option D, ugly. I passed because I studied. The focus word here is because, and because is a conjunction. A conjunction is a word that joins two ideas. Okay, now this is a subordinating conjunction. In this sentence, in this context, the answer is option D. Now let me break it down. We have two clauses in the sentence, right? We have dependent clause and independent clause. independent clause is I passed. The dependent clause, which is also called subordinate clause, is because I studied. So because is introducing us to the reason why I passed. It is only serving as a conjunction, a subordinating conjunction. Now, I know that a lot of us, or many of us, will be quick to pick option C as the answer, and I'll tell you why you would want to do that. Now, because answers the question why, right? And we've been taught as students that adverb answers the question why, where, when, how, so on and so forth, right? Now, because you know that because I studied is an adverbial clause of reason, you'll be quick to assume that because is an adverb in itself, whereas it is only a conjunction. Okay, so don't be confused. Even when you check the dictionary, you see it that it is a conjunction and it only introduces us to the reason or the cause. It is not the cause or the reason in itself. Okay, so the answer is no doubt option D. Now, relative clause is also called adjectival clause and it is introduced by a relative pronoun. For example, which, whose, who, etc. Adverbial clause is introduced by where, when, etc. Right? So the answer to this question, no doubt, is option D, subordinating conjunction. Dash. Okay, so judging from the options, we can tell that this question is under question tag. Okay, for question tag, it is a combination of a statement and a short question, right? And how do we solve question tag? When we have a negative statement, we should have a positive question, and when we have a positive statement, we should have a negative question. Now let's take a look at this sentence. All right, the statement is negative. How do we know that? The presence of not, which has been shortened, okay, isn't. It isn't. Okay, now how do we derive the answer or the short question? We look at the subject and the verb. Okay, so let's take a look at the options. So option A, we have isn't it, right? This is not the answer to this question. One, because the subject is he, not it, right? And then we have a negative verb here, isn't. We need a positive one. Okay, so option A cannot be the answer to the question. Option B we have is he, right? And this is the answer to this question because yes, we have the subject here, right? He, and then is the positive form of the verb, right? Option C we have was he. This is not the answer to the question because we are not looking for was, we are looking for is, right? Then option D we have his, right? And this is not the answer to the question because it is a statement, not even a question. So the best answer to this question is option B. Question 24. $5 million dash a huge money, a huge sum of money. Okay, so let's take a look at the sentence. We have $5 million, which is a single measurement, a single amount of money. So regardless of the dollars in plural form, we treat it as a single measurement, a single amount of money. Okay, dash a huge sum of money. So option A we have R. So R is plural, where is plural, was is singular, option D is also singular. Okay, so that's when we are considering numbers, but when we're considering tens, option A R is present. Okay, where is past, was is past, is present. So because we are treating $5 million as a single amount of money, the answer should be in its singular form. Okay, so the answer will be between option C and D. But then option D and C can be correct. Was can be used to refer to a past action, right? Is for a present action. But the final answer to this question will be option D because is used to state a general truth. Okay, 5 million naira is a huge amount of money. It's a general truth. Okay, so option D is the final answer to this question. I also want you to note that we can also use the plural form for an amount of money. Okay, and that will be when we are referring to individual units, okay, bundles, okay. For example, $5 million were scattered on the floor, something like that. Okay, so when we imagine that, we imagine a bundle of money scattered. Okay, $5 million were scattered on the floor. So that's an example where we can use, the plural form to talk about an amount of money. Okay, so the final answer to this question is definitely option D, is. So guys, we've concluded today's tutorial. I'm sure you learned something. So share that with me in the comment section. Do well to engage, like, share, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe, okay? Till I see you in my next video. Bye.